Go.
Zambia Blog Talk Radio.
Hi, everybody. It's Saturday. It's Saturday. It's Saturday. You know what it means when it's Saturday? We are on the air. Zambia Blog Talk Radio. Welcome. Zambia Blog Talk Radio Perspectives. It's 9 a.m. Central Standard Time. Although I don't look like I just woke up, but that's a good thing then. Good afternoon, Zambia. Hello, Australia. Good evening. Good afternoon, Europe. Everybody, welcome to the show. Like we always say before we start getting into the nitty-gritties, share the link, post it on your social media handles. You see how smart I sound because I hang out with smart people. All right, post it on your Facebook page, Twitter, let everybody know, WhatsApp groups, and everybody like our YouTube link page or channel. It's ZBTR TV. When you like it, click also on those bells so that it will be able to notify you that whenever we come live, it should be able to notify you that they are live. Okay. Wow. Hello, Kasuluva, my co-host here. He's soon going to be my boss. He'll be taking over. I'm going to retire. Hi, how's Lusaka?
Lusaka is great, Uncle Nathan. How's Texas?
Texas is cloudy and gloomy, and it was raining. So today it's 100 days of President HH and UPND. Before we introduce our guests, I'll hand it over to Kasuluva to do the honors of what? Our trending, our headlines. Let's hear the headlines that you have for us, Kasuluva, today. Then you can go ahead and introduce our guests.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, once again, depending upon where you're catching us from. That's which part of the world. It's yet another interesting segment, like Uncle Nathan has highlighted. We are looking at the 100 days of the UPND government, as well as the Republican CEO's days in office. We are looking at what's been achieved, and that's what we're going to deliberate. Our highlights are going to come from the issues that we're obviously going to raise, and mostly what's going to come up. We are joined by two exceptional individuals. We have Miss Chihana she's a journalist, a very powerful one, actually. We also have Mr. Jonah Banda, who is a strategist as well as an analyst. Welcome.
Thanks so much for having me. Lovely to be here today.
Okay.
Thanks for having me as well.
Okay.
Honored to be here.
Awesome. So, without further ado, 100 days. On the 12th of August, we were so excited. The nation, Zambia, went on a pause and a standstill to elect the new government. We were all very excited, and some of us thought that the sun will now be rising from the other side and setting from the other side. I don't know how true that is. Yeah. So, as regards what's trending and what's been trending, what we're going to do is we're going to look at the four major issues that our panelists feel have been the major achievements by the government, as well as four other issues that they feel maybe need improvement. I would call it that way. We'll start with Miss Thandiwe. The floor is yours.
Thanks so much. So I think for me, maybe the most important one that I think was non-existent in any shape or form is the Ministry of Green Economy. I think that that's the biggest positive for me. I am a person who is quite consciously working in the area of tackling the climate and environmental crisis. And whilst climate change itself is just a concept that we felt alien, I think that bringing it home into such a structure within a ministry that gives it more significance. So and it means that people will be more engaged, and it becomes more personal to Zambians rather than a distant thing that's only about the climate. It's about everything else, the socio-economic impact of the changes to the environment, the crisis in general. And Zambia is actually one of the a country that has some of the most affected people and areas in the climate and ecological crisis. So this will bring it home, and it means that we'll start to tackle issues from that perspective. So that's my first one in terms of what's being achieved.
Okay.
Awesome. Very, very interesting. And the second?
Okay, yeah. So the second one is the president and his government making themselves accountable to the people of Zambia by allowing themselves to speak to the media, in that way speaking to Zambians as far and as wide as possible, being quizzed, addressing us and tackling challenges, and giving us regular updates on what is actually happening in the country. Also, that the playing field for the media in the media sector itself is becoming a little more even, with the reinstatement of some of the media houses. I think that that's a big plus and should be commended, and I hope that this continues to grow strongly. Then my third one would be, I wanted, when the African Union brought into effect the after the African Free Trade, the African Continental Free Trade Agreement, rather, I really wanted to see that being enacted in real time, and I'm seeing positive strides towards that with the engagement that we've had so far with the Congo DRC, with Rwanda. We're seeing it with Zimbabwe. I think we needed to do that. Africa has got to be able to sustain itself, to trade within and among itself. And I think that that's a big positive. I'm seeing that being enacted, whilst it came in prior, but at least you can see tangible steps towards that. And maybe my last one would be the sense of sanity that's in the markets, in public spaces. I feel like I'll be able to walk on Cairo Road and not want to be accompanied by somebody anymore. You know, I feel like this is a good time and good place to be in, and this is just the beginning of something like that. I hope that we hold on to that.
Okay,
Cool.
wonderful. Great points there. We're going to move. So before we look at the other 4 issues, I think we'll move to Mr. Jonah Banda, who's just going to give us the 4 issues he feels have been a great achievement by the government in the 100 days.
Yeah, tough act to follow. So I think the issues that Ms. Chihana has brought up are extremely important. For me, the biggest one is just the sense of confidence that the entire country and the region has in this leader. I think HH is not necessarily seen as just a leader for Zambians, but he's seen as a symbol of what Africa can do in the entire region. So he's inspiring the youth in Malawi, he's inspiring the youth in Zimbabwe, and you know, even as far as West Africa. I mean, the youth are being inspired by him. So for me, I think in terms of bringing confidence to African leadership, and also putting Zambia back where it belongs, you know, when it comes to any discussions surrounding democracy. So for me, I think that's the biggest one. The other one is just I think the other biggest issue is orderliness. So I know a lot of people are complaining about how long it's been taking HH to put his people in place, but what people don't understand is that he's not coming from a point he's not coming from a place where things were functioning. So he's coming from a place where there was so much disorder that you can't you can't just plug and play. So you kind of have to look at the entire system, like the entire infrastructure. I mean, the essentially he has to act as the national HR person at this moment to hire his hirers. So that takes quite some time. So he has to replace boards, he has to replace CEOs, he has to replace ministers, he has to replace DCs. So it's not something that can be done overnight, especially when after what we've gone through, where things were being done in backroom offices. I mean, people were getting appointments in backroom offices. So it will take time. It will take time to get the human capital part of government right, and he's just put order there. So and I think he's reminded us that things have to be done systematically. I mean, you can't just go and just drop a nuclear bomb on the entire system. I mean, you have to do things systematically. So to me, that's the second one. The third one is accountability. I mean, we feel like this government is serious about it. They're serious about accountability. Where they've been wrong, they've admitted that they're wrong, and where they feel like they've had shortcomings, they've admitted they've had shortcomings, and the president is not afraid to call out his own party, as we saw it with the CADA situation in the markets, when apparently we're going to be having market branches, and the president spoke out against that. He came out in public speaking against his own party, and essentially threatening his own party when he said, look, if you're going to be at odds with your president, that's not a good thing. So to me, I think that's extremely positive. The fourth thing, and the thing that's extremely dear to me, is I feel for the first time we have a government that is extremely serious about decentralization, extremely serious about taking the money to where the people need it the most, and taking the money to the people that know the areas, they know what solutions they need, they know what the priority items are, as opposed to having everything done from some air-conditioned office in Lusaka. So to me, these are my four main things.
Okay.
Interesting. Here is, and you've both sort of like shared some thoughts. I think two items tend to come out from the two of you. The challenge that I have with this government is that either of you can respond, including yourself, Kasuluwa. I do not think you can give them a positive or a plus on something that we haven't yet seen the results on the matter. Like Thandi, you refer to the green economy. I mean, we haven't seen the results. They've just done it. Well, somebody may argue and say, well, yes, they are going, but how can we give them a positive on something we haven't seen the results of?
I think you're definitely right about tangibility of outcomes, but I think a significant outcome that I was highlighting, and I would still want to emphasize on it and push back on that, is that you have to raise awareness. The green economy has got everything. It's not just about the financial implications, but it's about understanding and putting it in the consciousness of people. And that was never really any part of any strategic endeavors of the previous government or the one prior. So I think that that's a critical thing. People will start to lean into that knowledge and understanding because it's been put before us. And we do need it. We do need to have that visibility. And I think that that's a tangible outcome. The fact that there's this beginning to say, there's curiosity, obviously, already, like, what exactly is this? What does it do? What does it mean for us as a country? Also, the fact that the president was here at COP26 and engaged very meaningfully in the context of the climate and ecological crisis. I do think that that's a tangible outcome. That's a tangible step. And so I'll leave it there, but yeah.
Okay, you wanted to respond, John?
Yeah. I'll just give an analogy, right? When Nathan, we had a beautiful daughter, went to college. Enrolling in college is an achievement, right? You can't get a college degree unless you enroll, right? And after you enroll, you have to take the classes. Each and every exam you pass is an achievement. And the cumulative of that You either graduate or you don't graduate. So we can't say you can't celebrate someone enrolling into college because they haven't graduated yet. So the very act of enrolling into college is an achievement by
what I did by bringing this to
I needed
Yes.
Jonah, well done. Nice one.
By the way, Jonah, that the college student or university student you are mentioning, guess what? She's graduating next weekend.
That's why I brought it up.
Okay, before Kasuluba comes in, I don't know which of the four each one of you have raised he wants to present to you. Jonah, you've both mentioned the issue of accountability. No, you need to give me examples of how accountable this president and his government has been. What accountability are you talking about here? I haven't seen any accountability myself. He's just talking.
Well, I'll give you a perfect
maybe
example.
to add on to Uncle Nathan's question over the same, because I also wanted to bring it up.
The accountability thing?
Yes, because they've both, Tchyiwe as well as Jonah, have actually brought it up. But then Uncle Nathan has asked to say what accountability. The follow-up question is going to be to say, people are now starting to say, maybe this is just motivation. Isn't it just a way of trying to make people feel nice, to say, okay, we're saying we have done this, we have done that, but what people want are results. So what accountability are we talking about?
Okay, if I have to respond to that, for instance, we've been having presidents for the last, since this country was formed, going to the UN General Assembly, right? And whenever they go to the UN General Assembly, they never came back and explained what they went to do. We had a president that came back and explained step by step, this is what we did, this is what we achieved out of these discussions. This is what we did, this is what we achieved out of these discussions, this is what we did, this is what we achieved out of these discussions. We also have a president who has told his finance minister to go out and explain some of the strategies, explain step by step. And the reason he's doing that is once the finance minister comes and explains it, it becomes public record. Once it becomes public record, you can hold them accountable to that. You get what I mean? So, and I feel like there is clarity in message, meaning that there's clarity in what you can hold them accountable for. And that is always the first step to accountability. If a person gives a vague idea of what they want to do, they say, okay, I want to build 10 schools. They don't tell you where, when, or how they're going to build them. Yes, that's just talk. But if I say, I want to build 10 schools in these 10 provinces, and we intend to start building on this date, and we intend to raise the funds this way, and we intend to get it completed by this date, then to me, that's the first step to accountability, because I have points that I can draw back to and say, look, these are your own words. You haven't achieved this. You have achieved this. You haven't achieved that. So we give you a mark of 5 out of 10. So it also gives you a way to scale, right? Because I think in the past, it's always been either it's done or it's not done. But now we can scale because there's points. We want to do this, we want to do that. So you can say, okay, you've done 8 out of 10. Right. So to me, I think that's why I say this government is way more accountable than governments we've seen in the past.
Absolutely. And I think that the simplest answer to that in terms of the immediate tangible things is that the president sits down and takes questions from journalists. He'll say something and they will ask him questions, like if they think that this is not making sense, they'll ask him and he'll respond. I think that is what accountability is. You provide that vacant space where people can actually ask you if they need to challenge you, they will challenge you. And he's done that. I don't know how much more would be asking for in the sense of being able to do that in that way.
Okay. All right. Anything else, Kasuluba, from the strides and the successes? Here are the points. Of course, of course, the aspect of bringing sense in the sanity and the orderliness. Jonah, you use the word orderliness. Miss Thandiwe, you use the word and sense of sanity, and of course the issue of cadarism is a big one. I don't know whether Kasuluba, you want us to raise anything else on the positives that have raised, or you want us to move to the struggles or challenges?
Maybe just in a way, again, both Ms. Tchyiwe as well as Jonah had brought the issue of African free trade, where the sense, the unity of Africa, bringing Zambia back to the good image it had, if I could paraphrase like that.
Yes.
Don't you feel that, again, wanting to work with the entire Africa could become a bit problematic, in that we might fail to stand on our own issues as a nation?
Maybe could you clarify what you refer? Are you talking about trade relations? Are you what do you mean? Is this a political aspect of working together on the continent, or?
So
I was talking
yes,
about trade, but
yes, because yes, trade. There's a relationship between trade and politics, obviously.
Yeah.
So don't you feel there might be a danger in there might be a danger in what's the word, in interfering because of these relations, interfering in the political standing of Zambia?
I think every relationship that's being built within and among African countries is going to be strategic based on the needs or mutual needs of whatever country it is that we're working with. So I can't see that actually being an impediment. I can only see it as being something very progressive, something that's beneficial to not just Zambians, but also the people that we're going to be working with, or whatever country it is. We're filling gaps by using, deliberately transcending the border systems that we had that were inhibiting trade amongst ourselves. I think that's an amazing thing. That's quite an achievement. And of course, it's not necessarily that it has been put in place by the current government, but the African Union brought it into effect in the last few years, and we ratified it. I believe it was last year or the year before that we ratified it. So for me, I think that's a strategic thing. It's a strategic thing. There were so many hindrances in terms of progressing business endeavors amongst ourselves as Africans. And so this is an opportunity for us to do it.
Okay.
It shouldn't be cheaper for Zambia to be dealing with Switzerland and not Congo DRC.
Definitely. Okay, before we transition to the negatives, let's hear from my friend here from Canada. He wants to join the Tumbuka clan here.
So when I hear the Africa Continental Trade Area, you know it. My tentacles.
Your antennas come up.
Oh yeah, they go. Right now, Kasulu, if you've heard, you're coming from South Africa, you cannot go to Europe, or you cannot come to Canada, you cannot come. What is the message the world is sending to us? Ms. Thandiwe maybe has not mentioned, Africa only trades with one another 10%. So we depend on others to survive. Others are saying, don't come here. What option do we have? So we have nothing but to start getting along if we are going to survive. So forget these issues of, Tukalalaka, we'll be fighting, we'll be doing this. Those, they come with any relationship. After all, we have been abused by China. We've been abused by the Americans. What is going to be new? So we shouldn't worry about that. Ms. Thandiwe, you know what? To me, this thing is even moving very, very slow. I don't like the way it is moving. I hope it could move very, very fast. On this show, we have talked about the biggest trading partner for Zambia is Congo. And yet you go to Kasumbalesa, it's a military war zone. There are soldiers there. What does that make any sense?
Yes.
So let's move fast. I'm with you. The first 100 days, HH has shown his commitment first and foremost to Congo. That has really pleased me in my view. Let's open up that border, that country, and move forward. Let's forget about the world. The world doesn't want us, Kasulu.
Actually, you're very right, Uncle Roger. The agenda has always been for Africa to be divided. By who? I will not say. But then Africa getting united and working around with itself is awesome. Okay, now we get to move to the next part, which I'm sure is going to excite a number of people. I won't call them failures as yet because it's only 100 days. But what areas need improvement, could be done better? What 4 areas? We'll start with Jonah.
Okay. For me, I don't, and these are my opinions, by the way. So I wouldn't say these are hard truths. So these are just my opinions. I think maybe in the fight against corruption, in the beginning there was a bit of naivety from the president himself, and I think he didn't quite understand how systematic it was. And sorry to say, I mean, I have very little confidence in the DPP. Very little confidence. I have very little confidence in the institutions, and the president should have had little confidence in them as well. So I feel like the corruption fight was initially undertaken with it was pretty naively undertaken, I would say. So that's the first one. The second one, I would come to appointments. I feel like I think with some of the appointments, the president is finding himself trapped in this whole credentials over experience thing, and we've seen quite a number of people. Yeah, they're very colorful credentials, but in terms of education. But at the end of the day, whether you have a PhD or not doesn't indicate whether you'd be a good manager or not, right? What indicates whether you'd be a good manager is if you've managed before. So we have a track record. So I think we need to be a little bit more practical in how we fill up some of these positions. So for me on that one, I would say, I'd say 80% of the appointments I'm happy with. 20% I feel like they could have done better, and also the third one is related to the appointments as well. I feel there was a sense that in terms of preparedness to govern, there wasn't that much preparedness to govern. I feel like maybe there was a preparedness to challenge the elections if they were stolen, but not necessarily preparedness to govern. And I give you and for me, what shows me that is, there's in terms of coordination in how some of these positions are being filled, right? I mean, in a more organized way, you'd have different committees already. I mean, search committees set up for different sectors, different domains, with experts going there doing their searches for the best possible people in those areas, or the best possible people to sit on these boards. But I feel like most of that activity was undertaken after the government took office. So I feel like that delayed the process quite a bit. That should have been done a year prior to the elections. Yes, for me, those are the third major ones. The fourth one, and this is a sticky one, but I just put it out there. I think
let's hear it.
With HH's economic plan, I think it's too heavy on the macro side, and I feel like in terms of the heavy hitters on the micro side, on the mom and pops down on the streets, I feel like it's more like a second-class citizen. So I feel like the first-class citizen is, let's get GDP growth to this level. let's get our inflation to these numbers, let's get that. And that's the reason why interest rates can be raised at a time when businesses are depressed, right? You can't raise interest rates when businesses are depressed. You can't raise. Yes. So to me, I feel like, yes, the indicators will improve. Trust me, they will improve, but it will favor the multinationals. It will favor the big corporations, but the mom and pops, those little, the contembas, the people selling on the streets, they will feel it. I mean, they'll feel it, and we need to be able to understand that the world of economics has moved. We can't keep on grabbing onto these macro-driven economic policies and actually start going down to the street level and looking at how to improve things at that level, in a coordinated fashion, supervised by Ministry of Finance. So you can't just say, okay, the Ministry of SMEs would do that. But we know who the real boss is. We know where the money is. The money is at Ministry of Finance. Those are the people who drive the economic agenda of the country. So those are my
Jonah,
4 ones.
Jonah, on that one, sorry, I'm sorry, I'm going to come in. I know it's not my show, but can I just ask? I'm just wondering about the SMEs portfolio. You don't see that as mitigating that space of the micro at all?
Well, because it's having a secondary seat at the table. So if that is driven by the guys that control the money, then that's different. Or the guys that control the economic policy, that's different. Because then even your tax regime will reflect that, right? I do support having an SME, an SME ministry. That's fine. But for me, it should be more of an implementer. You shouldn't expect it to be the one coming up with the policies. The policies should come from Ministry of Finance, right? And then they pass it on to the SME ministry, which should have, in my opinion, should have liaisons in every council around the country to implement these policies, right? So they should go down to the ward level, work with the CDF fund, work with all these other. So to me, there's a disconnect there. Right, I feel like there's a disconnect. There's this drive that Bank of Zambia and Ministry of Finance dominates, which is, with the macro stuff, and then you have the micro stuff that's more like left to these guys that don't really control the money, right? So, yeah, that's just my 2 cents on that one.
Okay, Ms. Thandi.
Right. So for me, interestingly, two of the areas that I highlighted as achievements so far are also two of the areas where I think I've also got some my initial concerns. So I am definitely concerned about methodology in a lot of the processes that the UPND government and President Hakainde himself are implementing. So when you're talking about creating order by eliminating the highly powerful role that cadres were playing in society, I do not see what the follow through is for them. What's the strategy? What's the grant strategy when it comes to them? What happens to them? It's unclear, and I'm concerned about where that's going to be channeled. What are the opportunities that are being created for that? Then the other one, not for that, but for those people. Then the other one is Jonah talked about decentralization, which I'm actually very grateful for as well. I think that's a brilliant strategy, but the methodology again, in terms of the CDF fund, I think was already contentious in how it's being distributed, where it's a blanket distribution of resources. Tackle your issues there with the same amount of money, regardless of how big your challenges are, how many schools you've got, or hospitals. It's just the same, and that's it. But what's in place in those through decentralization, what's in place at the lowest level of a community? Who is leading? Who is implementing policy there? Is it just throwing it out there and saying this is what's going to happen, or are there portfolios in place that are actually going to be working alongside the MPs, the local councils, the wards themselves? What's going to happen to that to that decentralization? I think there's no system in place to support that, and I really do fear that it's going to burst at its seams before it actually becomes functional. I expect some failure there. The other one that I was thinking of, again, media. I was talking about access to media, but I think President Hakainde himself has been so self-indulgent in these spaces. They take forever, and he probably spends too much time addressing what the PF government had done. We've heard of that. We heard it all through the campaigns. We know what their failures are, and that's why the people of Zambia decided to vote him and the current and his government into power. But we are tired. We're tired of the rhetoric around what happened in the previous government. Unless it's really absolutely necessary, I think he really needs to do away with that. And let the systems that he is saying he has empowered now, to the institutions rather, that have been empowered to tackle those challenges, especially the corruption element. Let them get on and do their job. Let them do their job. The Anti-Corruption Commission should be doing its job. He shouldn't be the megaphone for those institutions. So that's what I think. And then I think I've covered my 4. So that was decentralization, cadreism, systems lacking follow through and methodology, and also self-indulgence when addressing the media.
When you talk about addressing the media, somebody mentioned this point, and I told myself I'll bring this up today. It seems to be, what's the word? Is the only voice of the party. That's what somebody said. Okay? We haven't heard a minister say anything or make a statement, apart from Parliament, maybe. I don't know what your response is to that. Some people are saying that it's like he loves hearing his voice. He likes talking, and it's the only voice we are hearing from the party. It's the president. I don't know what your response is to that.
Absolutely. For me, that comes in with a self-indulgence allegation that I'm forwarding to him and his people. He definitely does. Very, very similar to how the political party was being run. I think we heard more from him, and mostly from him, rather than from anybody else when they were still on the opposition. And that has come forward. But it makes you wonder whether he trusts his people enough to be able to. I mean, he's appointed quite some brilliant minds, and I think they should be able to speak to the public and should be able to hold portfolios. Of course, I'm not going to dismiss the fact that I'm happy that there's been this coordinated. There was this coordinated COVID Omicron response from the Ministry of Health, Ministry of Transport, and whatever other two. I thought that was really, really good to see that and to have that space. But generally on other policies, on other policy issues, you see statements written, but you rarely get to actually speak to somebody properly and listen to them. I have seen that some of the ministers actually, so not to take this away, but there have been some ministers being hosted on some radio stations. So let's not totally say that this is what's happening, but he does speak a lot more than he should in some areas.
Before Roger and Kasuluwa comes in, Jonah, is HH micromanaging? What's the word? Is he a micromanager?
No. I think what HH is, he's a CEO. And we all know a modern CEO is also the chief marketing officer, right? Look at Elon Musk, Steve Jobs. So when you have WWDC or WWDC, it's Steve Jobs. He'll introduce a new product. He'll kind of give the company's overall vision, and then he'll let the department heads kind of like go into the specific domains and explain a bit further. It's the same thing he does. So every time he'll give he'll come up and give a press conference, there's always a mini press conference that follows with the ministries, with the respective ministries. So we've had Silva Masao give a couple of press conferences. We've had the Minister of Finance give a couple of press conferences. We've had the Minister of Transport give a couple of press conferences, both joint and individual. We've had, I think, infrastructure. No, infrastructure didn't give a press conference, but just gave a statement. So we have a few of his, and also the Minister of Information also had a press conference. So the thing is that HH is larger than life. So when his press conference is on, it tends to get a bit more attention than when other guys are having the press conference. But we do have press conferences. Yeah.
You know, this idea of the CEO, I mean, I like it in terms of from an economic perspective, and maybe foreign policy and stuff. But I do worry that it detaches him from the grassroots when you think of him in that sense. I know it's something that everybody is praising. Oh, he's a CEO. No, you're not a CEO. You're working for the people. Work with the people. Be in touch with the people. You're running a country, not a company. It's not a corporation.
No, but that's a modern CEO. So the modern CEOs are down on the factory floor. So modern CEOs are sleeping at the factories, right? The modern CEOs are involved in product design. The modern CEOs know who the sweepers are. So I think he's just trying to reflect that because, I mean, let's face it. Industry is more efficient than government. Governments need to start. Governments need to start copying some of these governance cultures, you know, in order to become efficient as well. You can't be this disjointed bureaucracy anymore. So you need someone that can talk, someone that can go to the bottom, talk to the guys at the bottom, go to the top, laterally can talk to anyone. Yeah, so we need that, and I feel he can do it. Out of any president that we've ever had, he probably is the one that's best suited to do that, to be able to interact with the grassroots all the way up to the top. I mean, he spends time on social media. He just doesn't have people you know, posting on his behalf. He actually does spend time on social media.
He does it himself?
Yes.
Well, I'm sure he manages quite a lot of his own social media, but I was in Lundazi in September, and none of my cousins could engage with the president on platforms that he's using, like Twitter. It's a bit elitist. I think a lot of them.
You see, that was going to be my next point before Roger and Kasula comes in here. That was okay. Jonah, you're saying is the CEO who's on the floor of the factory. My question is, how many? Since he came in 100 days, how many places has he been to in Zambia?
So he's been to Eastern Province, he's been to the Northern provinces, he's been to the South, he's been to Northwestern, he's been to Central. I can't remember him being to Copper Belt, but for my count, I think he's been to...
It was in Masaiti.
Yes. So he's been to Copper Belt, yes. So I think the only places maybe he might have not been to is like Muchinga. I don't remember him going to Luapula. I'm not sure. But yeah.
Okay, I don't want to throw in a further question. I was going to dig deeper on that, but because of our chairman, you have anything?
Can I say something though, please, before we lose this particular point? I just wanted to say, I think the model that would best work for a country like Zambia is not necessarily this concept of a CEO and the people, or be it modern day CEO, but I do think that a middle out management style is what would actually work, and he needs to strengthen that core of other people that he works with so that they can do their work, they can do their job. That's what I think. I think he needs to do that.
I mean, I agree with Mr. Ndi, Jonah. You look at even his visits, he's only taking about 2 people, and they say, oh, he wants a small entourage. Guess what? The Minister of small something, or Minister of Environment, they need to be talking to their counterpart in Congo. For God's sake, it's just Congo. How much are you going to spend there? But if you only you're always just taking a Minister of Environment. In my view, that is where the disconnect Mr. Ndi is talking about is. The visits to all these provinces, those were campaign events, mostly of them. What we have said, this CDF is huge. CDF he has given to every district of Zambia. Why hasn't he gone to sell it? This is what the CDF is going to do. This is the plus, this is the what. But in my view, he hasn't been to Zambia. He went for these small campaigns, but he hasn't really gone to visit the people. Copper Belt, first and foremost, is Tchyiwe, Copper, where I come from. That is Copper. He was denied entry to that place. He should have made it a priority to go and talk to the second biggest city in Zambia, as in population, which is Tchyiwe. There is a disconnect. Okay, he's sending the money. I see him as a rich father, not rich as in his pocket, but where a rich father just gives his children.
Emmanuel is busy.
Yeah,
McDonald's and okay. Hillary is helping us here. He says HH has been to all the provinces except Western and Northern. That's what.
No, he was at
in his presidential capacity.
No, he's been to Northern.
Northern he's been to Northern. He went to Chisali, to Makapwepwe's thing there. He's been. Yeah. But he hasn't been in a real way where you go celebrate with the people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one quick point, just very, very quick point. We also have to be alive to the fact that there are election petitions all across the country, and in very, very sensitive areas. You can't have the president going into an area where there's an election petition happening at that time, because that can be construed as, no, because you want him away from that process as much as possible, so that when these verdicts start coming in. Especially with
Jonah, that's an excuse.
So you can because you know what it will look like.
How will it look like?
No, it will look like the president going there knowing that there's going to be a by-election, right? He's knowing that there's going to be a by-election, so he's started campaigning already. So even when the verdict comes up, well, no, how come he came here? He came here because he knew what the verdict was going to be. So he needs to distance himself in all these areas where the petitions, wait till the petition is done. So if you're going to thank voters, you go thank voters. Or if you're going to campaign, you go and campaign. But we can't have him associated with that. Zambians are very, very good at forming associations. So sometimes the best...
Jonah, he is, like you said, he's a CEO of the country who should be starting to manage just like that. Like everyone else here, some of us are so anti-Lusaka. Sorry, Jonah, you are in Lusaka, but we are anti-Lusaka. Since you knew me on Zambia Blog Talk Radio, I've been anti-Lusaka. Remember, we used to do the district programs? That caused me to start doing that. Anti-Lusaka. So to see a president stuck to Lusaka, it is really worrying me. I'll tell you that. Whether there is a petition or not, he's a president, but he's a president. You know?
Do you have something you want to raise before we move?
It's a president, Jonah. It's a president.
Maybe quickly, I want to comment on Uncle Roger's point before I get to Ms. Tchyiwe's comment. As regards the entourage, Uncle Roger, previously, we used to have an entire government traveling to the UK or to the US just to attend a conference or things like that. But then now, isn't it? I feel it's a positive that he's only picking a small group, like the COP26. There was only a limited number of people. But then maybe where you bring in an aspect of there being a disconnect is where the leaders or people in particular ministries, need to take charge, and they are the ones that he needs to delegate to say, this issue, international relations, you handle this, this other issue to do with this and that, you get to handle that. But as regards entourage and moving with a small team, I feel it's good and beneficial to us. We're saving some money as a nation. Miss Tchyiwe had made mention. She talked about cadarism being a problem. You had mentioned to say, what next? Okay, so then these cadres are out. Then what next? Don't you feel that? First of all, don't you think that it's not the problem's duty to decide what next for an individual who needs to work for themselves? What the president is going to do is, the president is going to provide a platform where skills can be attained, provide a platform where education is easily accessible, provide a platform where jobs are readily available. So it is up to those individuals now to realize, to say, hey, we used to get free money. We used to, for doing nothing. Now it's rough in this economy. If you don't get an education, if you don't get a skill, you suffer. So isn't it upon an individual?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
As
Yeah, no,
opposed
thanks for asking that. Yeah. No, I think if that was the takeaway from what I said, then maybe I did not relate properly. What I was saying is follow through. Like this is a constituency in its own right. We have a big problem of cadreism in Zambia, and there are a lot of them, and politically affiliated, proximity to power in some way, or being used by power. Okay, so the void there is, where do they go? Not that somebody should be spoon feeding and giving them things to do, but how do you incentivize? Because they are your people, they're a constituency of your citizenry. So the way you're going to say, how do we empower women and youth, because they're at this critical, vulnerable point, and that the society is not able to sustain them in these aspects. In the same way that you would say, how do we encourage more women to become politically active because of cadreism that has alienated them, or the political system is heavily aligned towards men? How do you actually take that group of people who were so effective in what they were doing, the negative that it was, how do you get them to actually have a follow-through, a pathway? What's the pathway? There's no pathway at all. And that's what we need.
It's a tough one. Let's play this video where the party, the government is bragging about their successes.
Here's our summary of the last 100 days in 100 seconds. Ready? Start the clock. We've made education free up to grade 12. Approved funding for employing 30,000 new teachers. Funded the building of 120 new schools. Increased the community development fund from 1.6 million to 25.7 million. Removed income tax in the first 4,500 kwacha that you earn. Increased the health budget over 4 billion kwacha, employing over 11,200 new health workers. Sanitary pads to Zambian girls and women who cannot afford them will be free. Remove the borehole tax for personal use. Appointed a diverse cabinet covering all the 10 provinces. The university budget has been increased by over 1 billion kwacha. Allocated 2.1 billion kwacha to pay our pensioners. We have freed the media. Brought in over 1 million safe COVID vaccines, tests, and PPE. Introduced a new transparency and accountability in our financial dealings, reporting fully on the national debt. Cut back on unnecessary spending like new cars for government officials and big delegations for the foreign trips. Created the Ministry of Small and Medium Enterprises. Created the Ministry of Green Economy and Environment. Restored Zambia's good name, representing our country at the UN and in the UK. Restored the right to protest and organize politically without interference from the police. Removed political interference in our judiciary. Removed the cadres from the markets and clamped down the cadre violence. Restored the rule of law and removed the police roadblocks. Put in place social cash transfer of 3.1 billion kwacha to support over 1 million vulnerable households. Oh, apparently my 100 seconds is up. Your time is just beginning, as my fellow Zambians. Fellow Zambians, in 100 days, we have done a lot. All of us in government are aware that there's so much to do to demonstrate the real change you elected us to deliver. The president has directed all of us to redouble our efforts in the next 100 days so that we start to see the practical change.
No, I don't agree with everything.
Yeah, I have questions.
Okay, Dan, you go first, and then we have 6 minutes to do this.
Okay, so in 6 minutes, start your clock. No, I'm kidding. No, but I think, yeah, there are quite a few questions I have, but maybe the pertinent one to me is the 11,200 jobs for healthcare personnel. Prior to the UPND government coming into power, we had some medical professionals whose licenses were suspended and who lost their jobs as well. I am conscious that we don't know yet whether those people have been reinstated, because the UPND government did talk about reinstatement of those roles, and there were quite a lot that were affected by that, and not just within that role. The UPND government did talk about reinstating people whose jobs were lost due to being politically affiliated or perceived to be politically affiliated. I don't know whether that's an actuality, and that's very important, I think, for that 100 days.
Okay. Jonah?
Yeah, for me, I think there was an outright lie there, or at least creative use of the truth. Where they talk about free education. I mean, education is not free from grade 1 to grade 12. There's what they've done. There's just through that same CDF fund, there's a portion of it that's bursary, so it pays for those vulnerable kids that can't pay for school, but the other kids still have to pay. So school is not necessarily free. But for me, I think what's most important is we need to stop looking at the Ministry of Information as a ministry of propaganda. So what I was hearing there is propaganda. You get what I mean? And that stems from keeping, yes, we changed the ministers. Maybe we might have changed the permanent secretary, but everyone else is the same person. So all they know is propaganda. So that's one of the ministries we totally need to revamp. And the Ministry of Information should be about disseminating information or gathering information and packaging information. It should not be about...
To be honest with you, I've always had this position. I don't even know what the Ministry of Information is needed for. I don't. That's me. I don't. Okay. I like the idea. Of course, they didn't buy new cars when they took government. They cut back on delegation as it travels around. We got rid of cadres in the bus stop, bus terminals, markets, and all those things. Like I said at the beginning of this stand, I asked you this question. I said, you can't, and even you, Jonah, you gave me this brilliant Tumbuka answer about enrolling in college and all that. 30,000 jobs. You can't say you are going to hire them, then talk about it. The 30,000 people. You see what I'm trying to say? I don't know. Kasurwa, you're nodding your head. For me, you can't count something you haven't done. That's my argument.
But the money has been raised for them. So
okay, where's the money coming from? IMF? I don't care where it's coming from, but...
No, there's a combination.
By the way, Roger, I'm in touch with one of those doctors who was fired. Do you know what he told me, Thandi, for your information?
Oh, right.
His license to practice has been reinstated. He still doesn't have a job.
Okay, so it's not the job, it's the license that was. So he wasn't given his job back.
No, his job. He hasn't got his job back. Right. The license has been reinstated for him to practice. Do we have anything more to say on that video? I've got one point I want to raise here in 2 minutes, so I don't think I'll manage.
There's something that was missing from the video that should have been in it. So does that still speak to the video if I point it out?
It's okay. You can say it.
Actually, the lack of women in this government, the lack of people with disabilities, alarming. It's concerning, and it's not that they're not capable women. They are capable women. It's doing the homework and making the landscape level. I think that's a big problem for me. That's the biggest point of failure in terms of what they should have achieved.
The other thing also on if you want to use that word, point of failure, he said he wasn't going to continue with the position of district commissioner, but he appointed district commissioners. I don't know that my information is correct or what, but I remember that. Jonah, Thandi, thank you. Before we go, Jonah, out of 20, what do you give the UPND after 100 days out of 20?
15.
15 out of 20, okay? Thandi out of 20?
11.9.
Wow.
Katsulova, how much do you give the UPND out of 20?
Out of 20. Wow, interesting. I'll give them a 14.5.
14.5. Okay, everybody, thank you.
Here is a unscientific poll we did. 200 people have voted. So far, they are giving him 90.
90%.
But the people I ask are usually UPND affiliated. So
yeah, like me, if you ask me, no, not 90%.
Yeah.
Okay, everybody, our time is up. Thandi, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thanks for having me.
No, Miss Thandi, we are supposed to say welcome. We're supposed to be
yeah,
having a
she's
show.
been a war. She's been
long,
thank
overdue.
you.
I'm sorry,
by the
guys,
way,
I'm back.
By the way, before you go, if you are not busy, you don't have anything scheduled in the next 1 hour, would love you to stay. Would love you to stay.
No, I'm actually tied up. So
okay, that's
I'll
fine.
miss you. I missed you guys, so it's really good to be back. It's really
Thank
good.
you. Yeah, all the prodigal sons and daughters are coming back thanks to HH.
You know?
Miss Thandi,
thank you, everybody.
Mr. Jonah, great meeting you.
Zambia Blog Talk Radio.